The system needs to be changed. The more leadership we have in the world, the better off. And I don't mean leadership as in dictatorship. I mean leadership as in being curious, open to navigate systems, to take all viewpoints, to have a collective approach to collective healing, to collective liberation. That's what I mean. You only make me stronger because there is no room for me to quit. I may fail, but I won't quit. Let me say that again. I may fail, I will not quit. And so you only make me stronger. You only build up my resilience. You only teach me more skills that I need to have in my life that are going to be used and be so freaking impactful for what is to come. So typically for women of color or for Black women, I'm gonna be with Black women right now. For Black women, typically we have to prove that we have the experience, whereas other people can just say, you know what, I don't have that experience, but I'm a hard worker. And they're like, yeah, you're a hard worker, so we'll let you in based on potentially you're gonna do a wonderful job. And it's, again, a slap in the face for the scrutiny that we have to deal with. I'm your host, TaSheena Braxton, and I am on a mission to disrupt the industry standard that fancy titles make leaders and teaching my clients how to become leaders and get their own seats at the table. Every week, I will explore a topic that impacts women of color. I will unpack the topic and provide learning so that you can feel equipped to step into leadership. I went from laid off to an entry-level job to a mid-level multiple six figures role where I wasn't the highest on the org chart, but I was able to sit in rooms with CEOs, CFOs, and CMOs without a fancy title. As a mom of 4, a wife, and the eldest daughter of 6, I know what it means to lead in every aspect of your life and to be able to translate that into the workplace. Welcome to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. So glad to have you here. Now let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. Today, this is sort of a different vibe. As I'm recording this, usually I record my podcast episodes days in advance, but it has been really difficult for me to show up and create leading up to our United States election cycle or election process. And we found out this morning who the next president of the United States will be. And I would be lying if I said that I was satisfied with the results, because I'm not. And last night I went to sleep and was sad, but at the same time, still hopeful, still hoping for a miracle. But then when I woke up this morning, I was devastated. It's the word that I keep using. It's the feeling that I'm feeling right now is devastated. And I was stuck almost to the point where it was hard for me to really get out of the bed and really to be able to get my kid off to school this morning. My youngest is the only one that I really have to drive to school. The others, they can walk to school. They get up on their own because they're older now. Yay. But it was really hard. And after I dropped my son off to school, I was driving alone and just thinking in silence. And my car has really always been a place where I can just hear my own thoughts and I can just relax and be okay. And what dropped in my spirit was, how can you see gratitude in this no matter what? And I know God was trying to give that to me because it has been difficult. I cannot say that it has been just this amazing thing and, just being able to navigate this at this point because it's so fresh, it's so new. And I am devastated, and I am just uh, almost exhausted by what has taken place, because I know so many Black women in the background have worked their asses off to really have some level of success. And it is really hard. But that dropped in my spirit this morning about how can I seek gratitude. And then I went and checked my email for looking for the word for you today. I get these daily emails that gives me a Bible verse to read and some information about the Bible verse and some encouragement. And what the Bible verse for today, or what the heading was for today, is what it said. Is it said that the former shall be remembered, out of Isaiah 65:17, and it's where the verse wanted us to look at and to focus on. And it spoke about how Satan can taunt and torment you every day unless you stop carrying his shit and move forward. Now, he didn't say shit, of course, because this is coming from a biblical um, newsletter, but that's how I looked at it. Like, there's a lot of shit that we can continue to look back on. And until we just let it go and start to move forward, that is when we will start being able to overcome some of the things that we are dealing with right now. And this stuck out to me because I have been really thinking about this Bible story that has been working in me for the past couple of weeks, where it's a story about Lot's wife in the Old Testament, and they were fleeing from their city or whatever, and God directed them not to turn back and look back, and she looked back, and she looked back, and she ended up turning into a pillar of salt because she kept looking back. And this is something that has been wrestling in my spirit for quite a time. And so all of these things this morning were coming to me from different places. And it really made me think about, what did I want to talk about today? When I think about how God is asking me, where can I find gratefulness in this? I started to journal, and I thought about how I can be grateful that I'm not where I used to be. If this had been 10 years ago and this election was showing out to be like it is right now, I would be even more distraught because I was in such a different financial place. I had itty bitty babies. Like, my baby, he was newborn. He's 10 years old now. And it would have just been such a different place. And I can find some gratefulness in that, but also having the gratefulness that I'm in a loving relationship now. I have a sound mind. I have a healthy family. I have a roof over my head. And I just have the ability to have resources to be able to live my life and to hopefully make decisions that will be the best decisions for the generations to come. But I'm so grateful that I have the education to even educate my children, because my son, my 10-year-old, asked me, Mom, okay, so what's next? What are we going to do? How are we going to deal with this? And I said, you know what, son? Everything's going to be okay. Mom's going to figure it out, but we're going to be okay. And so he's already thinking and he knows. And I'm just grateful to be able to raise young children who know the best. They understand and they want better for their lives and for our lives as a family. My daughter, I'll just say it really quick. My daughter, even last night, who's will be 17 years old in a couple of days, came to me and said, Mom, you know what? Regardless of what happens, Jesus is still king. And that just spoke so much to my heart, because at the end of the day, You are absolutely right. Jesus is king. And so I think what the Father is trying to get me to do is to draw closer to him, because this election is just one piece of my life that has happened in the last 7, 8 months since April. And so today I wanted to talk to you about what it looks like to be grateful even when the world rejects you. So I will be remiss to not start with like literally what's happening in our world right now. So Kamala Harris has made history as the first woman of color to serve as vice president. Her journey starts, in the Bay Area. So I'm from the Bay Area. So there's some proud moments in that. But she started in the Bay Area, and then she went to Howard University, which is one of the most elite HBCUs in the country, in the nation. Then she became California's Attorney General. Then she went to the Senate, and then finally to the vice presidency. And this woman has literally worked in all three branches of the government. And her being in these positions shows so much representation and possibility for so many other Black women or even Asian women. And we can only be grateful that we got to see that happening. And of course, there's other mayor races where we see Black women, and we have two Black women Senate seats that's in the Senate office now for Black women. So we're seeing this happen, and it's slowly and surely starting to make some strides. But of course, with every first, there comes so much scrutiny, unprecedented scrutiny. And the criticism that Kamala Harris faced wasn't just about policy, it was often very personal. It had to do a lot with her gender as a woman, and of course, race. Of course, it was racially charged, and there was a lot in that. And it probably sounds very familiar to a lot of the women who are listening to this right now. And it should, because this is a pattern that many of us face in our own careers. Let me break down what this looks like in everyday professional life. First, there's this constant need to be twice as good just to be considered equal. Considered. There's just a consideration. Doesn't mean you're going to be equal, but you always have to be twice as good. And so, what that can look like is just like getting the education, the degrees, the all the things. And I did that. I will tell you, I did that because I'm such a learner. I love to learn. So it was more out of learning. But I also knew that having more education and credentials would position me for better opportunities. Now, this isn't something that I advocate on doing unless you really love to do this and you love to learn. I tend to advocate more for the relationships that you're building and the networks that you're growing. But I will be remiss to not bring up the fact that being twice as good or appearing twice as good usually comes with some type of paperwork. Something to say, we checked the box, we got it, we're good to go. This also looks like having your ideas dismissed in meetings and only to be praised when it's repeated by someone else. Now, have you ever been in a meeting and you brought up an idea and you're like, oh my God, this idea is so awesome, I'm going to say it, and you say it, no one bites, no one acknowledges, no one confirms that they heard you. And then when somebody else says it, they're like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. Slap in the face. Slap in the face. The third thing is being labeled as aggressive, even when you're assertive, or being told that you're not a team player when you set boundaries. So I've always had to have very firm boundaries around my time because for a long time I was a single mom of four. I just could not go to the happy hours. I just could not do the extra meetings, stay later. I had to get up out of there. And that sometimes meant that I would have to bring work home, but I couldn't stay around because I had children to pick up from school every day, or I had children to drop off, so I couldn't be there at 7 a.m. I mean, drop offs aren't till 7:30, 8 a.m. in the morning at school. And so I had to have very firm boundaries. And sometimes that could look as like not being a team player because you're not socializing with everyone else, which could be further from the truth, which again is why in my leadership program, I take the position of you don't have to go to all of those team building, networking things to be successful. Because again, when you create the relationships, when you show value by solving problems for the organization, for your team, for your boss, that is how you move the needle, not just because you're seen having drinks with your team. The other thing is watching less qualified colleagues advance while you're told to wait your turn. I have been in this position where I've had so much skill and qualification, but my skills and my qualifications would not get me through the door. It would not give me a seat at the table because while they were asking me to prove myself, they were giving the less qualified, educated person a pass based on their potential. So typically for women of color or for black women, I'm going to be with black women right now. For black women, typically we have to prove that we have the experience, whereas other people can just say, "You know what? I don't have that experience, but I'm a hard worker." And they're like, "Yeah, you're a hard worker. So we'll let you in based on potentially you're going to do a wonderful job." And it's again a slap in the face for the scrutiny that we have to deal with. And then the other thing is being the only one in the room and feeling the pressure or the weight of representing your entire community. It is so much weight to know that your behavior will be the example, will be the prototype that every other race will base what they know about you and your race based on what you do. So if I have four children and I need boundaries in my day, any other black woman that comes behind me with children are probably going to fit the bucket that they're probably not a team player because they need strong boundaries because they have children. And it's sad because typically we are not looked at as individuals. They look at us as a collective people with the same thinking, with the same process, with the same everything. And so we walk into these spaces feeling like we have to represent and we have to be on point. And if we do not, we can mess it up for everybody else. But there's also this internalized way that we're also taking on in our world, where you'll find that as a black person, they will also start to believe that. And they will just fit right in and just eat it all up and drink the corporate Kool-Aid and those corporate Kool-Aid beliefs that are out there. And so when I dig deeper into why rejection hits differently for women of color, I want to share some stories. Okay? So there was an executive leader who told me that they were the only Black woman in senior leadership at this particular company that she was at. And she had a very critical, crucial presentation that she was doing. And someone in the room interrupted her over and over again, questioning her about specific facts about her department. And it was information he did not ask of other people who were presenting, but to her, he kept asking. And she said that that evening she cried in her car, not because of him, but because she had to maintain composure instead of defending herself. Because if she started to defend herself, oh, she's defending herself, she's being aggressive, she's not taking feedback, she's not doing the right thing, or look, she's just distracted, or making stories that, oh, you see, she's not ready, she can't do it. And so it was really hard for her. Another story is that there is a person at the mid-level that I've worked with, and she was leading a very, very, very successful project that saved the company millions of dollars. And then she was passed over for a promotion. Literally, passed over for a promotion. She'd have saved the company money. And the feedback that she got was she needs to work on her executive presence. And if you've been listening to my podcast, you know how I feel about executive presence. If you do not, go back and find the episode where I talk about executive presence, because it's one that is such a mixed bag of like, this doesn't even matter. So go back and look at it. I believe it's episode 3. And again, she had to work on her executive presence, but her white colleagues were promoted because they had great potential. They could possibly get it done. They could possibly be the best. And this is what I like to call as the prove it again bias. Prove it again. It is where women of color have to provide more evidence of how competent they are than other groups to be seen as equal. And so we saw that in this election cycle where Kamala Harris had to constantly prove that she knew what she was talking about, that she could do something different. And then when she began to separate herself from the white man, her boss, Biden, I believe that is where people were probably feeling like, oh, she's not giving him any credit. Or how can she separate herself? She can't separate herself. That's not okay. He's the engine behind it all. You know, like there's just so much bias that happens, and she has to prove, or she even had to prove that she was Black. Y'all, I can't make this up. Like literally, she had to prove that she was worthy, that she was enough. And so when I think about how do you find gratitude in all of this when you're just so against the wall, like there's so much coming for you, you cannot break glass ceilings, you cannot shatter the walls, like you just can't get through it, right? How do you find gratitude? When you find gratitude, you're reclaiming your power. And it's not about accepting rejection or minimizing your pain, but it is about recognizing how worthy you are, especially when other people do not. So let me share 5 powerful ways to reframe rejection through gratitude. And I've spoken about rejection a little bit on episode 4 of my podcast, but there I was talking about how you can see rejection as a catalyst for growth. This one is really about how can you find the gratitude even in the midst of the rejection, because sometimes you may not be able to see how you can grow. But if you look over your life and you say, I'm still thankful for these things, then maybe that will be the opportunity or the push that you need to start to grow. So here are 5 ways. So the first thing is have gratitude for your journey. Every no has strengthened how resilient you are, how you are able to be adaptable, how you are able to be flexible, how you are able to keep moving, how are you, how you're able to not let anything stop you. That is what your gratitude does in rejection. It also can help you refine your purpose. When you have gratitude for your journey, you are going to look at your purpose a little bit different. I know after getting these results, I said, my purpose for helping women of color has grown that much stronger because there's something in this that deserves my attention, because there's are many other people just like me who were thinking about what the next move are. And if I am not a catalyst for supporting that movement, if I can't see that as part of my purpose, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. And so when you are going through your journey, these challenges that you have will give you some unique insights, some unique perspectives, and it will help prepare us to help others that are behind us. Okay. So, first is having gratitude for your journey. The second thing is have gratitude for your growth. Skills that you develop while proving yourself to people is a top notch skill. Let me tell you, one of the skills that I've learned is negotiation. When I've had to prove myself over and over again, it's when I learned how to negotiate. I think I told you all a story on my intro podcast episode where I talked about how I had to prove that I needed a pay raise, I needed a promotion when I was doing the same work as everybody else. And I didn't take my foot off the gas. I kept asking. Then I had to prove myself to get my education paid for. The negotiation skills that I've learned in that process is top fucking notch. It really is. I've also learned the emotional intelligence that has helped me navigate the difficult situations, because now I know how to be with people. I know how to talk to people. I'm reading people a little bit differently. And I'm just like in this zone where I can look and I can figure out how to be strategic, the strategic thinking, and how to figure out different paths to move forward. And then be creative about how to be innovative even when there are barriers around me. So I was laid off 10 years ago, and the same thing happened in April of this year. And there were so many barriers. Like I could have chosen to go back into the workforce. Matter of fact, I've tried. Not because I at the core wanted to be, but because I felt that I needed to. But when those opportunities did not pan out, one of the things that it really taught me is how to be creative on still fulfilling my purpose to help women of color, even when I am building something new and there are so many barriers against me. I started this podcast recently, October 18th, on my birthday of this year. And The God to honest truth is I don't know what this podcast will produce for me in my life, but I have to try it. I have to figure it out. I have to see if it draws me closer to the community that I want to serve. It could be a barrier because the podcast industry is so saturated, but I trust that God will bring the people to me that need to come to me. And this is how I created my business now. I'm trying new things, doing different ways of doing things, meeting new people, sending random emails and inbox messages on social media platforms to CEOs, y'all. I am walking the talk that I talk all the time. I am growing my network and I'm learning how to be creative in the process. So that was the second one. It was just being having gratitude for how much you're growing, how many skills are being developed in you right now, how your emotional intelligence is being nurtured and like established, how you are creating the strategic thinking and creativity in order to move forward. The third thing is having gratitude for the community that is around you. I am so thankful for the mentors who have helped me, who have guided me, for the peers that have supported me. I go every week to this mini mind co-working session, and I can't tell you how much gratefulness I have for the badass women of color coaches that are around me in the same position as me, growing businesses, and how much they help me. It is phenomenal. But to the people who I have hired as my coaches, who are other badass women of color coaches who are doing the damn thing out there, and how much they have supported me in my development. To my family who have supported and believed in me, and then even to my haters, y'all, to the haters, you only make me stronger. You only make me stronger because there is no room for me to quit. I may fail, but I won't quit. Let me say that again. I may fail, I will not quit. And so you only make me stronger. You only build up my resilience. You only teach me more skills that I need to have in my life that are going to be used and be so freaking impactful for what is to come. So thank you to my community. I also have gratitude for my authenticity and for the people around me, your authenticity. You give me the courage every single day to be true to myself. I'll tell you, one of my coaches is DL Sharon, and she is a business coach, multiple $1 million business coach. And she gave me some coaching this year where she kind of said, you need to be true to your story and you need to be true to what has happened in your career without shying away from telling that story. Be yourself. You don't have to be this image of somebody else. I had a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn, y'all. I will just be completely honest. And I don't actually know if it was a love-hate relationship more than it was some PTSD, a post-traumatic response from some stuff that has happened to me where I've had leaders to point out what I'm doing on LinkedIn and questioning what I was doing on LinkedIn. And so I've always felt like I had these eyes on me, like people were watching me. I was going to be held accountable. I was going to be in trouble, and the list goes on. And so I was afraid to show up on LinkedIn the way that I needed to show up for myself now being an entrepreneur or business owner. But she was able to help me with that. And then my other coach, Kat, she is Kat Del Carmen, she is so phenomenal because I joined her cringe challenge, and it was just a way to just show up real on social media. And the fact that she had the courage to do that, and she has the courage to do it every freaking day, even through this election cycle. When you talk about bold and badass, that's who you need to go to, Kat Del Carmen. And I will post both their names in my show notes, but they help me to have the courage to remain true to who I am, to not shy away from the fact that I am a Black woman. There is nothing that's going to change that. I also find strength in my authenticity when I can maintain my cultural identity. Again, being a Black woman, I maintain that I'm a Black woman through and through. When I coach, I'm looking through an equity centered lens. And even if you aren't a person of color, when you come to me, I'm thinking about what's the most equitable environment I can give to you so that you feel comfortable and confident in your own skin. Also, my authenticity helps me to have the wisdom to know when I need to adapt and when I need to stand firm. So I'll tell you, I can't walk into all the spaces just doing whatever and saying whatever and dressing whatever way that I want to just because it's comfortable for me. I do firmly believe that you should be able to walk into corporate spaces and other places and be yourself and be your most authentic self. And there is still a time and place for everything. And so knowing when to adapt and when to stand firm. I wouldn't go up to a new boss or a CEO that I don't know or have a relationship and be like, "What up, yo?" I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, "Hello, my name is TaSheena." Even though my natural slang and the way I talk, that's not my natural slang, by the way. I just love saying "what up," though, because, that's, that Detroit. And I just think it's so cute. Like, that is just a cute phrase to start with. So that's more funny than anything. But in San Francisco, I'm like, "What's up? How you doing? What's up?" I'm not going to do that to a leader that I don't know. I'm going to say hello. And even a leader that I do know, I've had mentors at the most highest senior executive level, and we know each other. They know my fears, my vulnerabilities. They know where I'm good, where I'm not good. I'm just not going to be like, "What's up?" I am going to say, "Hey, how you doing?" You do have to adapt. But there are other things that I would stand firm on. I love my red braids, and I'm going to wear my red braids to work. That's going to be me. I love lipstick. So sometimes I may have a very bright lipstick. That's me. That's how it's going to be. Period. That's just me. And I stand firm on that. That is where I stand firm. And being authentic to define what success looks like for me on my own terms. Don't come to me and try to feed me what I should do and feed me what's appropriate and feed me these things because it makes you comfortable. I know what success is like for me. And that also goes for family members. Sometimes we have family members who want us to do certain things, stay in the workforce. Like, I can only imagine if my mom was still alive right now, and she would probably tell me, "Sheena, you need to go get a job. Like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?" But I've decided that I right at this moment of my life, I'm not going to go look for another job. I'm trying to grow a business, and I'm going to try to make it work. Period. Period. Boo, like my daughter would say. Period. So I am going to define success on my own terms. That is what authenticity looks like. And I'm grateful for the community and the people around me who allow me to show up in my authenticity. And then being grateful for impact. I'm grateful for being able to be a role model to other people, being able to share my story to encourage folks. I am beyond grateful for that. I am grateful for being able to create change in different organizations, from being employee resources groups, from DEI initiatives, for being able to volunteer for students, and allow students to have access to different programs. I am grateful for that. I am grateful for being able to open doors for those that came after me, and for being able to have people as my successor and teach them what I know, and teach them how to take the lead when I can no longer take the lead or I had to step away. And then grateful for being able to challenge and change systems. When I tell you coaching is my soul's work, this is my soul's work, not to just coach you, but to coach you to change the system. The system needs to be changed. The more leadership we have in the world, the better off. And I don't mean leadership as in dictatorship. I mean leadership as in being curious, open to navigate systems, to take all viewpoints, to have a collective approach to collective healing, to collective liberation. That's what I mean. So, the 5 things I'll just repeat for you on how to reframe rejection through gratitude is having gratitude for your journey, gratitude for your growth, gratitude for your community, gratitude for your authenticity, and gratitude for your impact. So let's get a little bit tactical as I start to get to the end of this podcast episode. I want to share how to actually maintain your well-being even when you're going through rejection. And so I'm going to share some specific strategies that have worked for people that I've worked with or coach, that have worked for me. It's all going to be intertwined. And so I'm going to share a couple of things. First of all, there should be some type of physical wellness protocol that you take into account. And so, what's your morning routine? What are you doing in the morning? Are you praying? Are you meditating? Are you stretching? Are you reading affirmations? Are you reading Bible verses like I did this morning? Like, what is your morning power routine? What exercises are you going to do? Like, how are you going to exercise in the morning? This is physical wellness now. How are you going to exercise? How are you going to move your body? What are you going to do? You can, exercise. I'd love to ride my Peloton. I'm going to do that today. Breathing exercise. I did a beautiful breathing exercise in April in DC at a conference, and I didn't realize how much I needed to release through those breathing exercises. So I thank the coach for doing that. And, going for a walk, reading a book. I don't know if you want to be connected to the TV right now, but if you are connected to the TV, maybe a great movie will do. And then recovering at the end of the night. So journaling, doing some type of relaxation ritual, taking a nice bubble bath, whatever that looks like for you. What is your physical wellness protocol? The second thing is, what is your mental wellness practice? So some of us need professional therapy. Some of us have coaching. Like, find those people who relate to you, who see you, who understand what you're going through. And for the women of color, it's not a problem that you find other non-women, not non-people of color or non-women to coach you. But there's a lot of power when somebody sees you and is able to know exactly where you're coming from without you having to do a lot of explaining. So find that professional coaching or therapy that can help you at this time or whenever you are rejected. Get community support. So it can be affinity groups like the employee resource groups, anything in the professional. It could be mentorship circles. I have my mini mind. I have my coaching circles. Or it could be some peer support networks. Whatever that looks like, find those community support avenues. And then boundary settings. I cannot stress enough how much boundaries should be a part of your day or your practice. Non-negotiable self-care time. Whatever self-care looks like for you, it's a non-negotiable. Put it on your calendar right now. Do it 30 minutes. Block it on your calendar. Do it right now. Take nothing else but your self-care time. Email and meeting limits. How long are you going to be on email today? How are you going to limit the amount of meetings you are in? Do that. And then make a separation that when you leave your job, you were not bringing work home if you don't have to. Because I realize that if you are like me where I was at 10 years ago, where I had to bring my work home because otherwise I wouldn't get my kids on time and also meet the requirements or meet the deliverables that I needed to meet. So I get it. So as we start to come to a close, let me share some powerful stories of women who turned rejection into an opportunity. So the first thing is this person is a CEO now. And I've got the opportunity to have some conversations with her. And she says that after she was rejected from a job that she was at, she started her own practice. And she's thriving. She feels like rejection was a gift and it just pushed her into something better. And I love her story when we talk because it's similar to mine. I think that the times that I've been rejected, it has propelled me into something so fantastic that I'm like, if I would have kept trying to look back like Lot's wife in the Bible, I would have turned into a pillar of salt, worth nothing. But I kept looking forward and I pushed myself into something greater. So do that. And then an entrepreneur said that she tried to get funding from so many different things and she kept getting a no. And because they didn't fit, she didn't fit what they were looking for, blah, 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 blah. But today she serves millions of customers. And we see this on Shark Tank a lot where like somebody will get rejected on Shark Tank and then all of a sudden you're going through your Instagram feed and you see them and say, hey, it says, I was rejected from Shark Tank, but look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me now. Hey, look at me now. If y'all know that song, y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway, like all those no's taught her to trust her vision. She had a vision just because someone didn't see that vision. And I've said this before, like when God gives you a vision, only you're going to understand it. Not everybody else is meant to understand it because God gave you the vision. He didn't give it to them. You have to have conviction that your vision is good enough and it is going to move you forward. So let's create your rejection resilience toolkit. And I want you to write down these 5 commitments before, if you can write. Now, if you're driving, you're listening to this, you cannot write this. But here's what I want you to do. The first thing is I want you to find a daily practice. So your first commitment is I will find a daily practice, whether that is a morning gratitude ritual, maybe you're documenting your wins for the day, you're having end of day reflections, whatever that is. I will have a daily practice. The second commitment that I want you to have is you're going to create a professional strategy. So what is your development plan? How are you going to do some network building? And how are you going to build your roadmap to where you want to go? What's the path you're going to take? Like, get your professional strategy on paper. The Bible says, write the vision down, make it plain. So we're going to write it down. Okay. What is your strategy? The third thing is you want to have your commitment is that you will get a support system. So identify who's in your core circle, schedule those regular check-ins, join communities, like get you a support system of other people who you can talk to, who you can tap into at any point. Get that support system. The next commitment is what I will have a wellness protocol. So your wellness protocol is a physical health routine. How are you exercising, moving your body? Mental health support. Do you have a coach? Do you have a therapist? Do you have a counselor? Whatever that looks like. And then any spiritual or mindfulness practice. I pray. I read the Bible. I also like to meditate. So what is your wellness protocol? And the fifth one is I commit to a growth mindset. I will learn from each no. I will celebrate the small victories, and I will always plan my next steps. So I'll repeat those. So the 5 commitments that you want to make, I'm just going to repeat those. The first commitment is I commit to a daily practice. Number 2, I commit to writing and creating my professional strategy. The third is I commit to building a support system. The fourth is I commit to a wellness protocol. And the fifth is I commit to a growth mindset. So as I close this episode, I want you to remember this. Rejection is not your final story. It is just a chapter. It is just a transition point. It is just a hiccup in the road. But gratitude will always be your superpower. I remember there was a quote that I used to keep at my cube when I had a cubicle. And it said something like, gratitude and like stress cannot exist in the same place. When you have gratitude, how can you actually be stressed? Because you're too busy feeling happiness and joy because of the gratefulness that you have. So that gratefulness really becomes your superpower. It's how you're going to keep your head high and your heart open even when the world will try to shut you down. I would love to hear from you, and I want you to share something you are grateful for today. And then let's just create a community of people who are grateful and who have gratitude and who are building strength together, even in the midst of rejection. I thank you for tuning in to this conversation the day after the election results. Remember that your journey matters, your resilience matters, and yes, even in rejection, you can find gratitude, not because it's easy, but because you are worth it. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep being authentically you. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like, follow, and leave a comment. Share with your friends, family members, and other women of color leaders. Inside my one-on-one leadership coaching program, I will help you become the leader that you want to be with work-life integration and peace. By tapping into networks, growing your visibility and confidence, you will go from untapped, unseen, and underrepresented to attracting opportunities to take your career and your life to the next level. I use an equity-centered lens in my approach so that you feel seen, safe, empowered, excited, and committed to attract, create, and land opportunities in an unconventional way. To work with me, join my email newsletter, or to learn more about me, click the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being your coach. See you next week.